Hey there, sijui kama huwa unajiuliza if there is some truth in some myths, some folk tales and some African traditional stories that you are being told tukiwa watoto. Yaani mtu tu alituambia vitu tukiwa watoto na tukaamini. Tukizunguka mti fulani for 7 times utageuka jenda na ukuwe mwanaume kama we ni lady. And of course vice versa, ukiwa lady uzunguke that place for 7 times unageuka unakuwa mwanaume. Do you believe some of these things? Well, there are a number of stories that for decades have been told about Menengai Crater associated with demonic powers, somehow appeared real to some, and to others they are just narratives, stories, myths without tail nor head. Yani zenye hazina kichwa wala miguu. So this is the first video of a series of Menengai Crater documentary. We ask ourselves, from these stories, is this a mountain of death, a place of demons like they say, or an underrated beauty at its peak? Hizi stories za mashetani Menengai, how have they contributed to destroying Menengai Crater's ecosystem year in, year out? Well, walk with me, Pius Agata, as we dig deep into these narratives, trying to find out the truth, who created them, and what the stories say. While many people come here to witness the beautiful scenery of this caldera, how many people know that for decades this crater has been haunted by myths and stories full of fear that has enabled people to hunt animals? Worst of all, stories that have led to the destruction of an entire ecosystem over years. In that process, Menengai Crater Forest is burnt every year. Other animals like monkeys and snakes have been forced out of this crater, further contributing to the human-animal conflict or bringing their existence to a halt. Before I tell you more about these myths, hata sijui kama ni myths, ni narratives, ni folktales or what, but before I tell you more about them, let's get to know Menengai. Now, sitting at 2,300 meters above sea level and about 8 kilometers from Nakuru City, Menengai Crater is one of the biggest volcanic mountains in East Africa. This mountain was formed millions of years ago through volcanic activity. Menengai is also 238 kilometers from Kenya's capital city Nairobi, 579 kilometers from Mombasa, and 5,997 kilometers from Rome, 10,988 kilometers from Tokyo, and about 4,186 kilometers from Cape Town, South Africa. At the top, a signpost has been erected that says the crater is 90 square kilometers and has a maximum depth of about 485 meters. The volcanic activity of Menengai Crater has enabled Kenya to add at least 35 megawatts of power to its grid through a project dubbed Menengai Geothermal Power, funded in conjunction with other stakeholders such as the AFDB Bank. Dissecting the name Menengai from the Kikuyu community perspective, the name translates to Menengai, which literally means a place of many gods. And when you dissect this name from the Maasai community version, the name Menengai translates to Ilmenenga, which literally means evil spirits or a place filled with skulls. But away from this, Menengai beauty reaches its peak when it rains. The grass and the flower sprouts to allow a greenish view from any corner. Before the geothermal power generation activities began in 2010, various animals such as gazelles and snakes used to rule the floor of the crater. Today, those remaining have to interact with human beings. Its beautiful, massive lava and a splenic view has created a lot in terms of tourism. For those who like hikes, picnic, bird watching, mountain biking, and nature trails, this is the place to be.
Okay, so here we go. Follow me.
But when others fear reaching the floor of Menengai Crater, her beauty can never be fully explored if you don't visit its various caves. These are the caves believed to shelter Mau Mau fighters when they were battling the British colonial soldiers. Today the caves have been turned prayer centers. The curious at the viewpoint have created business opportunity to a group of youths, men and women who make a living out of selling food and craved material, most of the big five. But with all this great and beautiful story of Menengai, this crater has other outstanding stories. Whether real or not, created or imagined, the Menengai demon stories are really surprising to a point of making others fear tracking the Maran pavements of the mountain to reach her bottom. The stories and myths surrounding this caldera have allowed a few rogue Chacobanas and loggers to destroy the crater's forest, driving away hundreds of big animals and thousands of small living creatures, and in the process they evade arrests. This is simple. For decades now, many stories have been told and heard across the country, which makes people fear reaching the crater's floor. The fact that there were no passable roads to reach the floor of Menengai Crater until the government started drilling geothermal power made it impossible for many people to navigate through the dangerous paths of the mountain. Some got lost or were never found, some slipped, fell and died, while others were killed elsewhere and their bodies dumped inside the crater. Others committed suicide. So what are these stories? What is their origin? Who created them? Are they real or not? Do people believe in them or not? Do demons really exist in Menengai Crater or not? The story of breathing defeated Maasai warriors is not known to many, but yet it is perhaps the origin of these myths and stories of demons existing in Menengai Crater. The locals born before the 21st century kutoka Rigogo, Chonjo, Arahoka, Solai, Bahati and the entire Gashura area including Kerematop have perhaps heard this story of Maasai warriors who are still breathing many years after their deaths at this very crater. Other Kenyans outside Nakuru County, perhaps they have heard this story. But tell this story to the 21st century millennials, they won't buy it. It is told that Menengai Crater, like Rwanda, has also experienced the worst violence to be meted on a people in history.
The main myth that we have at the crater is that it is the center of all the devil operation. That's where the devils meet, and the allocation of their performance is done early in the morning. We can understand that, partly because early in the morning, the gazers in the crater obviously smoke and they are visible. But during the day, because of the sunlight, you don't see them. So they believe in the morning is when they make their breakfast, and the senior or the chief devil allocates duties to the other devils. And the story about the evening, again, when there's a second cup of tea after all the destruction the devils do, is the fact that they start seeing the gazers again. They start seeing the steam in there, because again the light becomes less and less.
Hundreds of years ago, so the story tells, hell and war broke between Morans of two Maasai clans, the Ilaikipiak Maasais and the Ilpruko Maasais. Now, this led to a bloody war where hundreds of Morans were killed, with the latter claiming victory. The legend tells that dead Morans still breathe many years later after their deaths, or perhaps used to, and that the steam that rose from the bottom of the crater was indeed the souls of the defeated Maasai warriors. The narrative continues to say that the fight between the Ilaikipiak Morans and the Ilpruko brothers was ignited by the need to control the grazing land. The defeated warriors who were thrown over the cliff are said to be searching for ways to go to heaven or come back alive to revenge, and that's why they still breathe, or perhaps they used to breathe. Don't forget that this is the steam that the government is now drawing geothermal power from.
The Maasais of the north and the Maasais of the south met in this general area, and they fought over the right of the grazing rights. And the agreement was all the young Maasai warriors went up to the rim and fought it out. And the idea was the losers would be thrown overboard, down below. And for many years, and the people who ventured to the crater immediately talked about the skulls, or the place of the skulls, or the place of the dead people.
A second legend, however, says the violent battle between the Laikipia Maasai, also known as Ilaikipiak, and the Ilpurko Maasai, was because the Laikipia Maasais refused to recognize Laibon as their spiritual leader. They were therefore fought, defeated, and thrown into the caldera. As the story goes, who would want to visit a place that has dead people breathing, looking for ways to go to heaven or come back to revenge? Very few indeed, or none, would dare do that. And because of that fear, Chakubanas, loggers, over years, they have found their way of destroying Menengai Crater ecosystem without being noticed. That is the first story.
Our general idea is to get the people to accept the fact that Menengai Crater historically was a very well-conserved area, particularly the vegetation, the animals. And then gradually it has been almost all the vegetation has been cut down, the animals have been depleted. And so what you're saying is that Menengai Crater still has a lot of value if people can protect it properly.
Now be sure to subscribe, like and share so that you do not miss the second part of the so-called Menengai demons. In the second video, we look at yet another story of Menengai. It is told that Menengai Crater has demons who ride motorbikes. Is it real?
Na mimi ni mkaaji wa hapa Kirima kutoka mwaka wa 81. Sisi ndio tulikuja hapa, kama hapa sasa, hapa ni nyumbani.
Ushaipatana na mashetani hapa?
Hiyo hata mimi hiyo huwa nasikiaga na ile nyimbo za mtu anaitwa Sami Moraya.
See you in the next video.